All right, looks like we are now broadcasting to all attendees. To reduce feedback, let's see if we can get everybody to mute themselves for this first part before we jump into this discussion. I want to thank everyone who's joining me today for this small business workshop. We've assembled a just incredible group of local experts to help work through some of the common issues that Lowcountry small business owners are encountering as they attempt to weather this storm. First and foremost, hope everyone out there is staying safe and healthy, as well as your families. But joining me here today is William Furman, the Senior Area Manager for the U.S. Small Business Administration in the North Charleston Alternate Work Site. William graduated with a degree from Clemson University and went on to have a 27-year career with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, serving as the lead rural business services specialist. So while with the USDA, he worked with and directed and guaranteed business loan programs, as well as economic development programs for rural areas of the South Carolina Lowcountry. In 2013, he accepted the position of Senior Area Manager for SBA and now serves the 10 coastal counties here in South Carolina in providing lender services, government contracting programs, and economic development to small businesses in the South Carolina's Lowcountry. We're also fortunate to be joined by Michelle Abraham, who is the State Director of the SC Small Business Development Centers, a position she has held since 2010. During her career, Michelle has worked in large and small organizations in both public and private sectors. So she has served in many functional roles up through senior management, mostly in advanced materials for aerospace/aviation and automotive industries. Her entrepreneurial spirit led to her founding and operating 2 successful businesses of her own, including consulting with companies on business expansion, diversification, and technology commercialization. And then rounding out our panel is Mr. Frank Knapp, president of South Carolina Small Business Chamber of Commerce. Frank co-founded the SC Small Business Chamber of Commerce in February of 2000. He serves as the president and CEO of the 5,000 plus member statewide advocacy organization that has taken a leadership role in making South Carolina more small business friendly in areas such as taxation, regulation, worker training, workers' comp insurance, utility costs, health insurance, energy/conservation, and economic development. So William, Michelle, Frank, thank you all so much for giving us an hour of your time today. Since this public health crisis began, Congress has worked together to pass bipartisan legislation to try to ease the burden that Americans are facing. And this includes, enhanced unemployment benefits, increased funding for states, municipalities, counties, and hospitals, and then loan programs for small businesses. I fought hard for specific Lowcountry priorities to be included in the federal response legislation, but in my countless conversations with Lowcountry small business owners and workers over the last few weeks, I know that there's still a lot more that needs to be done. Many small business owners have encountered difficulty applying and then accessing the resources that are available to them. But hopefully today we'll be able to address and then troubleshoot some of those common problems. That's the whole purpose of being here today. So I want to thank everyone who submitted a question ahead of time. And if you have a question that comes up during this time that we're together, you can enter them in the chat box. I would ask you just to remember to leave your contact information so that my office is able to get back to you should we not be able to address it directly here on this forum. So with that, let's get to some of the questions that were submitted. We had a lot of questions on the SBA, the loan waiting period. And I've heard from many small businesses like Cheryl in Moncks Corner that can't get through to the SBA to follow up on a loan application. And we all understand that the SBA has been inundated with loans over the past 8 weeks. And I'm working with my colleagues in Congress to make that application process more transparent and streamlined. Actually, this week I sent a letter to the SBA asking them to continue processing new applicants as they work through the backlog and immediately update the applicants about the status of their loan application. So William, I'll kick this over to you. What's the best way for applicants to check on their loan status with the SBA or their own lender?
Well, first, I want to thank you for inviting me today and giving me the opportunity to speak on some of our programs. And, the situation we're talking about here is the economic injury disaster loan. And those are the loans that are actually made directly by the Small Business Administration. This is the only time that SBA actually makes loans directly to small businesses. And so there was a tremendous volume and a tremendous demand for these idle loans, as we call them. And so the SBA was really overwhelmed by the response there. And so it made it difficult for SBA to provide statuses on specific loans. And, when we went through this process, there have been some bumps in the road. When it first opened, the portal went down, so that created some confusion. We went through a couple of three different versions of the portal before we got that down, and it really started functioning well. But as far as following up and obtaining the status on specific loans, that is still a challenge. Now, we do have a customer service number, but I'll be the first to tell you that when you call that customer service rep, the information that they have available to them is limited. But I would like to give you that number, and I'll just go ahead and give it now. The number for the SBA Disaster Assistance Customer Service is 1-800-659-2955. That's 800-659-2955. Now, you can also send that via email at disastercustomerservice@sba.gov, and they can provide you with at least some information. I know SBA is working on trying to have the ability to give those applicants more detailed information. One of the unfortunate things is that local staff here in South Carolina, local SBA staff, don't have access to the Office of Disaster Assistance loan system. So we are not able to pull up, those files or that application for the economic injury disaster loan. But the customer service number is going to be the best bet, but still, use our South Carolina SBA staff as a resource. If you really have a problem with a particular loan, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to assist you with that.
And William, what's the general time frame for approval of these loans currently right now?
Yeah, so understand that the idle loan comes in two parts. And so you have the immediate advance, and that immediate advance was the portion up to $10,000, which does not have to be repaid. Now, the equation for that is $1,000, and there was some confusion there in the beginning. With some people assumed that everybody was just going to get $10,000. Well, there was a formula that was tied to that, and it's for every employee, you would receive $1,000 up to $10,000. And then after that, there is the actual loan, the idle loan. And so the first thing a business is going to see would be the advance portion. And the way that is working is that, after a business is applied through the portal, they're not going to hear anything for a little while, and then they will notice that there has been a deposit into their bank account, and that would be the advance portion of the idle loan. Once they receive the advance, then a week or two after that, then they're going to receive an offer from SBA. If they meet the loan eligibility, they'll either receive an explanation as to why they're not eligible, or they will receive an offer of a loan, which they have the ability to accept or decline. So they can take any of the applicants they're going to receive the advance. They can take that, but they are not obligated to accept the loan. And even if they're declined for the loan, they will still receive the advance.
Okay. All right. Thanks, William. This one will open up to the entire panel. Since this program, the PPP, was first rolled out, I've heard from dozens of small businesses that have hit a wall when approaching a bank about applying for a PPP loan. They're either told that they're no longer accepting applications, or ones that do get through and apply often hear crickets for follow-up. If a small business, let's ask, if a small business is turned away by one lender, what's your advice on where they should turn to next, and how do you navigate that conversation with lenders as they apply for these loans?
Well, we've been telling people that the first place you want to try is with the banker that you already have a relationship with. And if for some reason they're not continuing to lend, or you can't get a loan from them, for the smaller businesses, a lot of times searching out some of the community banks, the smaller community banks, can be a better option than some of the large multinational banks. But just continue to try. If you reach out to one of our offices in the state, we can help you determine what loan organizations, what lenders are out there that may be in your area that could be good options for you.
Frank, you're on mute.
I might sound better on mute. I don't know. So, Congressman, thank you very much for your leadership on this whole issue. You've been a real take charge guy, trying to address the issues that are problems that came along with the PPP process. And so thank you for that. The first round, we had a lot of problems, and probably experiencing more of the problem then than maybe now. I don't know, with people being blocked from their bank, bank not paying attention to them, probably for a number of reasons. The second round may be going a lot better for smaller businesses, but I've heard, I was on a meeting yesterday, a round table yesterday with businesses from all across the country. And we were still hearing complaints where small businesses, self-employed, the sole proprietors, were still basically running into a wall with their local financial institution. So up front, let me just say this, and Joe, I don't know if you know Diane Sumter, been around South Carolina for a long time, and has a company called DESA, and she works primarily with minority and women-owned businesses, as well as all small businesses. She just got the phone with me, and she said that they are working with a lender that is ready and willing, regardless of who they are, where they bank, what type of business they are, whether they got employees or don't have employees, that they're waiting for applications, and that she is being a conduit to that. So if you don't mind, I would like to give her telephone number for anybody out there who has not applied for a loan and is having difficulty with their lender. Call Diane Sumter. It's Sumter. Her cell phone's 803-730-6466. 803-730-6466. I will vouch for her personally. Known her for probably 30 years, and she is, at least in the Midlands, very well known for being an advocate for small businesses, especially women-owned and minority businesses. So I give that number, 803-730-6466, and suggest to people give her a call.
And there are also, non-traditional lenders out there that are working in this program and helping folks as well. So if you're having trouble, you definitely need to reach out to our organization. SBA can help with guiding you to banks. Diane, any of us can help you with ideas on different resources that are ready and available to assist with getting loans.
Awesome.
It was a real problem, especially in round one. But it's round one, as we worked through that, additional lenders, started coming online and started processing applications. And there are a lot of, number one, the community banks really came on strong. I really appreciate all the work that they did and are still doing.
Yeah.
They worked really closely with SBA. We had a lot of community banks that hadn't been doing SBA lending. And they came on, and they have just done a tremendous job. And, one of the good things that I hope comes out of this is that we will have additional lenders going forward that will participate in the SBA 7A programs. And so that would be a real a benefit in the future. But there are fintech lenders out there online that have come in and they're doing the loans as well. And so there are a lot of options at this point for businesses to go and seek those out. So I haven't seen it wasn't near the problem in the second round that it was in the first.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point, William. As you all know, during the second round of funding for the PPP, we explicitly set aside or earmarked $30 billion for small banks, and then another $30 billion for the medium-sized banks, with the hope and intention that these small to medium-sized banks would be catering specifically to small to medium-sized companies, like the ones here in the Lowcountry. So that's something we set aside, of course. And for the people who are with us today, Michelle, William, Frank, let's say they put in their application for PPP loan. What is the general guidelines as far as like how long should they expect to hear a response? That even that if the application is complete, like so for somebody who submitted it and they're asking, okay, we sent in the application, I just want to know if it's complete and been accepted. What kind of guidance would you give them as to when they should follow up with their bank, at what time, and how so?
Yeah, so I'll take this, and so every lender is different, and every lender it really just depends on what their caseload is, what their volume of lending is. But now, I think I've mentioned that most lenders that I've talked to are caught up. They either have just a few applications on hand, or some of them actually don't have any at this point in time. And so the application should really be processed within a matter of days. It should not take a lender very long. If you had a business and they applied in round one and they say they still don't have an answer from their bank, they need to be reaching out to one of us on the call to assist them to find another lender that will move forward with their application. Now, SBA, one thing that we can do is once that lender has input their application into the SBA's E-Trans system, we can pull that application up. We have a business here on the webinar today that doesn't know the status of their application, they're welcome to contact me, and I can pull that information up, and I can tell them either, number one, that application has not been submitted to SBA, or if it has been funded. So I can do that. Another situation that's come up on a regular basis is we've had businesses that have applied to multiple lenders, and then they go to another lender, and the lender tries to enter their application, and it won't let them proceed because they've already been approved by another bank. And that business doesn't know who the bank is. They've actually been approved and don't know who their lender is. And so we're able to help them with that too, get those connected. And you just have to understand it's just a tremendous volume on everybody's part. And so it takes a little bit of work sometimes to get it to the finish line.
Congressman, let me just add that, as Will said, that all banks are different, and they have different processes and different qualifications. That there are still some financial lenders out there that won't do a loan unless you already have a commercial relationship with them, or that they're only looking for loans of having a certain value or higher. So if people have had problems, you do need to go try to find another lender. And as Will would say, there's still money available. Don't let the frustrations from the first round stop you from trying to get the loan that you need to survive. Yeah. So encourage people to go back to that lender. If their lender still won't do it, you're going to have to find another lender. That plenty of them out there, and the SBA I think has a list of all the ones in South Carolina. Is that true? You got that online?
Yes, we do. It's a www.sba.gov/SC. And if you scroll down at the bottom of the page under resources, you can find a list of SBA approved lenders in South Carolina.
Okay. And Frank, I know we're getting a lot of questions coming in on the chat board. I remind folks that if you submit a question, please include your email address or contact information. So if in the event we don't get answered, here today, we can follow up. Somebody's requesting Diane Sumter's email address. Frank, if you could provide that to either in the chat or give it to us, and we can put it out there. But
I will put it on the chat right now.
okay. You know, there's a lot of questions being submitted about the process for determining eligibility for full forgiveness on PPP loans. You know, the ratio established is that 75% of the loan must be used for payroll expenses. And I've heard from many small businesses and their owners that wish there's more flexibility on that calculation. And that is something Congress is certainly looking at for the next round of potential funding. You know, and so I guess to the whole panel, what are the next steps small business owners like Charles and Susan in Mount Pleasant should take once they receive a PPP loan? And what's the process for small business owners to report and become eligible for 100% loan forgiveness?
So I'll kick this one off as well. You know, right now, SBA, everyone is still awaiting SBA to issue final guidance on the debt forgiveness piece of the PPP program. And this is quickly becoming a point of frustration for small businesses, and honestly, a point of frustration for lenders as well as SBA field staff, like I am, trying to guide businesses through this process. So, you know, we're still waiting on the final rules on that. The businesses, they do need to move forward and use those funds. They have 8 weeks to use their loan proceeds, and that 8 weeks starts from the date that they receive the funding. So there is no grace period or any period that they can wait to use the funds. They have to go ahead and start using that now. And 75% of those funds is required to go to payroll. 25% of those funds can go to other items such as rent, utilities, and mortgage interest. And so that is you know, it is somewhat of an issue. You know, a lot of businesses are still closed. And so if your business is closed, that makes it very difficult for you to use your funds on payroll. So that's somewhat of a problem. But right now, that is, you know, we have to work with what we have. And so we're still looking for the next interim final rule that will address that. Would like to say that, you know, if you're in business, you have a business and you've obtained a PPP loan, you need to go and check the website at U.S. Treasury, and every day or two they provide additional information and guidance on the PPP loan program, and it's in the form of frequently asked questions or interim final rules. And I think we're up to eight interim final rules at this point, and there are about 45 questions that support the program with additional information. And so, you know, right now you just have to be patient. And I know that's a very difficult thing to do in a situation like this, but hopefully we'll get additional guidance on that forgiveness piece very, very, very soon.
The other thing I would add to that is that as a business owner, when you get this loan, you do need to make sure you're keeping meticulous records.
Yeah.
Because we're going to get more instruction. We don't know exactly what you're going to need to do. So make sure you're keeping this information, you know, keeping good records. Be sure to, if you can, keep that money separate from any other money you have in the business, and really start looking closely at your cash flow and starting to plan ahead so that you're going to be in a position to pay off that loan when the time comes. In the PPP program, that's 2 years, and that's not that long when you think about it. So, and those are the kinds of things that we can do to help you through the Small Business Development Centers. I put our website up on the chat box if you want to try to reach out to us. Our services are free of charge, and we're there to try to help you work through these kinds of things, not just for now, but for the long haul.
And y'all did a great job, Michelle. Really, really impressive.
Thank you.
Congressman, you know, if people have concerns about if they got a loan about paying it off. I mean, my personal family has a small dog kennel. We got a loan. we're not really clear on also the forgiveness part of it. I think everybody would like clarification on how loans are forgiven sooner than later, because some of those loans are already into their second or third or fourth week. It's I envision a real mess if people have maybe not done something quite right, and the SBA comes and makes a ruling that they didn't anticipate. Will, if you can send it up the line, tell them to get the answers out pretty quick. Even about the FTEs, I still don't know what kind of hours a week they're using to calculate FTEs.
And I know there's a question on the thread about that. We'll try to get to that. Switching gears a little bit, the economic injury disaster loans, EIDLs, while not forgivable like the PPP, they were intended to be an extra tool for many small businesses to help weather the losses from the pandemic. Congress recently injected an additional $50 billion to allow the program to continue providing the low interest loans for small businesses. Unfortunately, since the second round of funding, I've heard from many small businesses like Birdie in Somerville that operates a rental cottage that went on SBA.gov to apply, only to be told that the SBA is no longer accepting applicants outside of agricultural business. Congress did expand the program to include small farmers that were left out of the first round, but not at the expense of other small businesses that didn't make the first cut. William, can you provide some insight to the SBA's decision on narrowing the eligibility for EIDL applicants at this time? And is there a time frame set for the queue to open back up to non-agricultural small businesses?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. And so the way this worked is that as round one of the PPP was winding down, SBA also closed the portal for idle loans due to the lack of funding availability. And so the portal was closed. We did receive additional funds from Congress, but SBA did not reopen that portal to allow SBA to try to work through and get a handle on and control of all the applications that they already had on hand. And so earlier this week, they did reopen the portal, but only for agricultural producers and enterprises, which had not been eligible for the EIDL program until then. So we changed the rules on agricultural producers, determined that they would be an eligible entity for EIDL, and opened the portal to allow them to apply. And not only agricultural entities, but also applicants that previously applied in late March and early April that did not have the ability to request the immediate advance. And so there are about 25,000 of those types of applications across the country that need to go back into the portal and reapply so that they can receive that immediate advance of EIDL. And so you have those two groups that are currently there. It is my understanding that, it is, of course, everything is subject to the availability of funding, but that the portal will be reopened for all businesses. I don't have a specific time frame, but I certainly hope, the SBA has given those agricultural producers the opportunity to get in, and so hopefully all businesses will be allowed to apply for that in the very near future in the next coming days. And just to change gears 1 minute, I just want to make sure that I get this in on the call. Michelle and I had long conversation and exchanged several emails yesterday about this topic, but there is a lot of confusion about how the EIDL advance interacts with the PPP loan, or how the EIDL loan interacts with the PPP loan. And you can have both an EIDL loan and a PPP loan. You just have to be careful in that you do not commingle the money. PPP loans are really intended for payroll, so that's what you need to use that for. And then you can use the EIDL funds for other working capital needs. Now, where it gets really tricky is the EIDL advance. And so you cannot have Basically, the EIDL advance is a grant, and the PPP loan, once it's forgiven, is a grant as well. And you cannot have two grants for the same purpose. And so the way that is going to work out and reconcile is that when if a business has received the EIDL grant and a PPP loan, when they submit their request for forgiveness on the PPP loan, the EIDL grant will be deducted from the forgiveness on the PPP. So, I think there's a lot of confusion. People don't understand that. And so what's going to happen at the end is that there would be a balance on that PPP loan for the amount of the EIDL grant that they received. So I just want to try to make sure that people understand that. It is kind of confusing. But the easy way is just to say, you understand you can't have two grants for the same thing.
Awesome. Thanks for that, William. And as a reminder, everybody who has questions, we're getting through as many as possible. Be sure to put your question in the chat box and also include your contact information, your email address, so that we can get back to you. And we'll also be giving everyone the panelists' contact information as well. So if you have any follow-ups, let's move on to talking about this 8-week time frame. I've heard a lot about this every single day, actually, from small business owners, mainly in the food and bev industry, about spending that money on employees within 8 weeks from getting it. I heard from Pamela in Bluffton, who operates an independent restaurant, dependent upon seasonal diners, on how the 8-week time frame to use the PPP loan just isn't practical in their industry. I mean, it doesn't make sense for them to pay bartenders or wait or servers to come in and look at empty chairs if people aren't coming in. So Patrick from Mount Pleasant, who's on the call, he suggests that even starting the 8-week clock once the business is fully operational would be a huge help. And Patrick, I hear you, and that's why I led a letter with my colleagues to leadership to include an extension of up to 12 weeks to use the PPP loans. William, Michelle, Frank, as it stands now, when does the clock start on activation of PPP loans?
So the clock starts ticking the day you receive the funds, and it is 8 weeks. At this point, we don't have a way to waive that or extend that based on the current interim final rule. And I agree. I said that from day one, that was going to create issues because businesses are closed and they need those funds when they become operational. They don't need the funds when they're not open. I mean, even if you are paying employees that aren't at work, you're going to need that cash when you start running your business. And so it would certainly have my support, and it would make perfect sense to me to see that 8-week period extended.
And I would completely agree with that. And Congressman, we really appreciate your leadership in that area, because that's something that we have been hearing from many, many, many people. With so many businesses closed, it's really, I mean, not a waste of money, but it's not going to help businesses when they're not open. If it can be extended so it can be used after they open the business, it certainly is going to help a lot of those organizations that really need it.
Excellent. Yeah, every single day I'm hearing from small business owners like Franklin on Daniel Island, who is having difficulty with filling out their PPP applications. I just want to let everyone know our Mount Pleasant and Beaufort offices are always always available to help individuals navigate the federal resources. And so you can give us a call anytime at 843-352-7572. Michelle and Frank, I know that both of your organizations have expert staff and resources in place to help small businesses every day of the year, but especially during this unprecedented time in history. Michelle, Frank, what can you let everyone know what resources exist for small businesses in the Lowcountry?
We have offices in the Lowcountry in downtown Charleston, in North Charleston, in Hilton Head, in Beaufort. Of course, right now we're all working remotely, but we can work with anyone by phone, by email, online. We've got all of those capabilities set up. Our folks are all small business owners, either now or have been. Many of them have been in banking. We understand and can help with all of the financial issues you're dealing with. A lot of people are trying to figure out how to maintain employee loyalty and get people back to work, as well as dealing with how do I market my business to maintain customer loyalty, bring customers back in, rebuild. A lot of the HR issues with employment and unemployment and all of that kind of thing, operational issues. Essentially, if there's anything that you're grappling with in your business that you don't have the departments of people to help you with, we come alongside you and basically fill those functions. We don't charge for our services, and we've ramped up with additional people to make sure that we've got capacity to support you. So would just encourage you to reach out to any of our folks. We've got all kinds of different specialists, and so we can kind of triage around you with whatever you need with all the different specialists in our network. We serve all 46 counties. And if you go to our website, and I did put that up in the chat box, www.scsbdc.com. There's a little blue box up in the right-hand corner that says sign up to request counseling. It takes you 3 or 4 minutes to fill that out, and we generally get back to you within 24 hours. And we'll continue to work with you just for as long as you need it.
Excellent. And
Yeah.
just
I'm sorry, Congressman. I was, we really just tell people they need to contact Michelle's office or any of their locations around. They do good work. But if you have a CPA or whoever does your taxes or whoever does your payroll, they can get you the information you need to fill it out. It's not that difficult if you simply have the basic information about your payroll. They're going to ask for a year's worth of 2019 monthly payroll. And if you get them that basic information, even I was able to fill it out. And that's saying something. But there are resources out there. Don't be cowed by, oh, I got to fill an application.
Yeah.
Just go to whoever has the information on your payroll month by month in 2019. And that's what they're looking for.
And for everybody on the call, we are going to be sending up a follow-up email with all these resources on there. And so we'll have those available. We'll also have them on our website, cunningham.house.gov. So that information is not going anywhere. Let's, if we can, I know we're trying to get through as many questions and issues as possible. Let's switch gears and talk about the self-employed, the 1099 workforce. We all know small businesses are at the heart of our economy here in Lowcountry, and they've got, and they have many faces. Oftentimes, it's one singular face. Congress has driven several initiatives to provide assistance to the self-employed, the independent contractors, the gig economy workforce, including making them eligible for unemployment benefits and the PPP program. So for those self-employed individuals that want to apply for unemployment benefits, DEW is now processing and accepting your application. So you can please go to dew.sc.gov today to apply. So broadly to the panel, how can the self-employed and independent contractors like Benjamin on the line apply for PPP?
Yeah, so independent contractors and sole proprietors are eligible for PPP. When round one rolled out, there was a delay of about a week to allow them, or it delayed them for a week to apply, but that is since gone. And honestly, that's really what we're seeing now. And so there is good news in that right now we have about $125 billion left in the PPP fund. And so we're seeing those applications slow down. We're seeing those loan requests get smaller, and they are primarily at this point, that's what we're seeing is applications from sole proprietors and those independent contractors, those 1099, those 1099 workers. And so I would encourage them, you know, if you didn't think you applied or you didn't know that you were eligible to apply, go ahead and apply with your bank, or if they're not interested, that we have banks that will do it, and apply for a PPP loan. You're also eligible to apply if you need working capital. You just need to analyze your situation, and that's where Small Business Development Center can really help with an individual like that as well, to help them make the decision as to what program best suits their needs. I would highly encourage that. But definitely we still have funds available. Those groups are eligible. They need to get an application and apply.
Okay. And just a reminder for those folks who are putting comments in the comment box, include your email address, because we can't get back to you unless we have a way to contact you. I see Craig and a few others that we need your contact information. And on that same subject, Ellen on here just asked, you know, as an LLC single member, sole proprietor that pays the proprietor by the owner's draw, she says, we don't have W-2s or W-3s. We've been unable to secure an answer about what documentation we can provide. William, Michelle, is that something you all could answer?
Yeah, they should be able to provide a Schedule C from their tax return.
Schedule C? Okay.
And it's based on that. And so we understand that they're not paid payroll per se, but it would be based on the net profit of their business.
All right. Excellent. Let's talk about, we've had a lot of questions on the 75% threshold, how 3/4 of PPP loan must be used to cover the cost of payroll expenses in order for the loan to be deemed forgivable. So we got a lot of questions in here. It says what makes an employee eligible under the PPP. For instance, Mark from St. Helena Island wants to know if new hires count towards the employee eligibility requirements, particularly if they were hired to replace a former worker that won't return to work. Any insight?
So the interim final rule does not speak to new hires. It just talks about employees. So I don't see any issue based on the information we have today, as far as, you know, counting those new hires in that forgiveness calculation. There should be no problem there. I think those would certainly qualify. The other thing that we should probably mention is that, and this came out this week, that if you have an employee that for whatever reason refuses to come back to work or be rehired, you need to document that and be sure that you have it in writing. And those employees are not, you're not going to be penalized on your head count for those employees that refuse to come back to work.
Okay.
So that's good news. And I think that will help a lot of small businesses as well, because, you know, as time goes on, things transition. Some people are on unemployment and aren't coming back. And so that will be a benefit to small businesses.
Awesome. Okay, well, we got a lot of questions. We only have a limited amount of time. So Ronnie from Charleston is curious as to how full-time employees will be counted towards a PPP loan. Like, how many hours does an employee have to work to count as a full-time employee under the PPP?
Congressman, I've been trying to find that answer also. Right now, I don't know that SBA has actually addressed that. You know, but my small business was using 30 hours a week as a full-time. Contacted somebody else higher up in the SBA in South Carolina, and they said, no, maybe you better use 40. So, you know, so we recalculated it at 40. As long as you use the same number during when you calculate your loan based on hours in 2019, if you use that same 40 or 30 full-time equivalent and you use it again now when you have the loan, you probably should be pretty doggone close. But my understanding it is that the loan forgiveness is going to be tied to your FTEs, and that you need to be at that same level of FTEs at the end of your loan. So that is important to watch. Maybe not necessarily who you rehire, because there will be people you can't rehire. There's people on maternity leave. They've moved. There's something else is going on in their life, or they simply don't want to come back to work because they think they can continue to collect unemployment, which we know now is not going to be a good path forward for them. But the key, I think, is going to be is your FTEs, and make sure you have them at the same level that you had on average in 2019.
Yeah, and I would agree, Frank. I agree with that, and I'm not sure who else you talked to, but I think you may have been right with the 30, but there again, that's just an example of some of the confusion that we're all running up against. And so SBA has not issued a definition of what a full-time employee is. So I look to see what the IRS said, and I think I think we will be relying on some of their definitions, and according to the IRS, I think a 30-hour employee would be considered full-time, and I think you would be fine with that. So it is a challenge, and that underlines the real need for SBA to get that interim final rule out on the PPP forgiveness. We need that sooner than later.
Yeah.
And so Christy is on the line. She operates a service-based business and pays her employees per job completed versus hourly. And she's seen an 80% drop in business in April. How does she meet the guidelines to keep all of her staff on payroll when the business isn't there?
Well, we said it early on in the beginning that if you get the loan and you're committed that you want it to be forgiven and not be a loan, you've got to do what it says to do, and that's 75% of that loan has to go toward payroll. If you've taken the loan too early before you really have your business back, what you're going to be faced with is maybe paying some people to stay at home. I mean, I don't know any other way around it, or find something else for them to do at the office or be at your location. But you are obligated, if you want it forgiven, to pay 75% of it out for payroll purposes. That's simply the nature of the type of loan it is.
Excellent. John in Mount Pleasant is wondering if his company should use PPP funds to employ and pay the same labor, even though they're doing less sales.
I think it goes back to what I just said. The answer is you have to spend 75% of the money, of the loan money, on payroll.
Yeah. We got just a few more minutes left. I want to remind folks, if you're typing a question or leaving a comment, include your email address. Like I said, if we can't get to you on this particular call, try and get through as many questions as possible. This has been really great. Appreciate everyone's help on the call. Let's talk a little bit about the loans that are going to these big corporations or over the small businesses. I mean, we saw the headlines, what happened with Kiowa, the HOA receiving $1 million, and they ultimately gave it back in their defense. But a lot of people are upset and outraged that these bigger businesses or these bigger entities are getting the loans. And so I want to get everybody's temperature on what accountability measures you believe are currently needed in place to ensure that these true small business owners are receiving PPP loans.
Well, let me say, because I've certainly been one of those critics in South Carolina of public companies that are publicly traded getting these loans to the tune of millions of dollars. And remember, every time you take money out of that pot, it's money that can't go to a real small business that needs it. So there were a lot of them, about 300 or more publicly traded companies that got loans in the millions of dollars. A lot of them have given it back. The SBA has given them until the 14th of May to give the money back so that they don't get included in some type of congressional investigation or be subject to any type of a penalty. But it was clear. I mean, the Department of Treasury made it clear that the loans are ago capital any other way and did not have enough resources to keep on paying their employees. And so it has been a little bit of a scandal. We must say that those businesses, that publicly traded companies, if they followed the rules, and maybe they did qualify, but sunlight makes people change their mind. And they have an opportunity to give it back and do the right thing. And a lot of them are doing that.
Yeah, I agree, Frank. And, you know, we have, of course, the administrator and Treasury came out and made that statement that all loans over $2 million are going to be reviewed. And just I have a couple of numbers here that kind of highlight the direction that we're going in. And so if you look at the average size loan in round one, it was over $206,000. In round two, it's just a little over $74,000. So you can see that those loans, those size loans are coming down. And I will say that I've talked to many lenders who are processing payoffs on the PPP loans right now. And these would be for customers that I guess made the decision that indeed they did not need or possibly weren't eligible for the loan to start with, and so that they're paying those funds back. However, you know, that can be not always a good thing, because when you look at it and highlight those types of issues and make people look at that and bring it to the forefront, you have very valid businesses that all of a sudden get nervous and they're afraid to spend the money that they are absolutely entitled to. So we just have to be careful about that. You know, people have gotten it, and some businesses are afraid to use it, and I don't want to see that. You know, it's there for a purpose, and they need to utilize that. And that really, I've had phone calls on that issue, both on PPP and on EIDL. And so if a business is eligible for the funding, they need to take the funds and they need to utilize it and put it to work.
And, you know, I think what tends to happen at a time like this is that we hear so much of the negative and that gets sensationalized, but there are the majority of people out there that are trying to do the right thing, that are trying to understand what these loans are intended for and utilize them appropriately. And I can tell you, I know a number of people who are small business owners who originally applied or were going to apply, and as they found out more information and knew that they could make ends meet without taking this loan, some of them pulled out. And so the majority are out there trying to do the right thing. And so as William said, we don't want to discourage anybody who needs it. That's why it's there. But you know, let's try to keep it in perspective too.
Yeah, absolutely, Michelle. And I think, you know, Congress has tried to narrow this as much as possible so it's directly towards small businesses. It doesn't mean that other people can't bend the criteria to fit themselves in. At the end of the day, there has to be some type of personal accountability and holding our neighbors accountable as well. I think that's it. Just because, you know, I talked to a lot of small businesses who just haven't applied for it because they said, well, I think someone else may need it a little bit more. And that's it's very commendable in the sense that we want to look out for our neighbors and those that need it most.
Yeah, Congressman, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. There are businesses, you know, my personal business, not personal business, I haven't applied for the loan. I just don't think that I should do it. It wouldn't be right for me to do it because of the, you know, I do have income. And I think there are other businesses, as you say, they want to do the right thing. And that means turning down an opportunity to get some free money. Well, good for them. They are concerned about helping others that are in desperate need. But I don't want to the conversation from Michelle and William that somehow we have to worry about those who have taken money and now they're concerned that they're going to get in trouble. You know, if you took it and you think you deserved it, use it.
Yeah.
If you took it and you're not sure, maybe it wasn't the right thing.
Yeah. Well, just a few minutes left here. I want to again thank everybody who's joined our call. Everybody who submitted questions, please continue submitting them and leave your contact information. You can also go to our website, cunningham.house.gov, to get all these resources. I want to give each of our panelists a minute or two for any closing remarks, whatever you want to leave the audience and the participants with. William, go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, so just again, thank everybody for attending the webinar. If you have any issues that you would like to speak to me about, I'll be happy to take your call. The best number for me is 843-225-7430. That is my office number. If I'm not in, you'll get another message that will tell you to call my cell phone, and you can reach me there as well. My email address is william.furman@sba.gov. So I'll be happy to entertain your calls. You know, I know we still have a lot of people that are concerned about the length of time that it's taking to process their EIDL loans. SBA is doing the best that they can to work through that backlog. They are trying to hire additional staff, and so they're getting to you just as quickly as they can. I can assure you of that. As busy as I am, and I'm very busy these days, I'm thankful that I'm not in the center processing disaster loans, because they are just like I say, overwhelmed. And if you haven't applied for a PPP loan, we do have, again, we've got about $125 billion left at this point. We don't know how long that will last. So, you know, don't put it off. Go ahead and get your application and apply with a lender.
Michelle?
Well, first of all, I think that it's great to look back and realize that we've kind of come past the initial shock of all this, and people are settling into what seems to be a new normal, and we're all trying to figure out how we move forward. And it's wonderful to be a part of this community and see how resilient and committed everybody is to helping each other. And I would say to those of you out there that, you know, if you are feeling like you could use some help at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. We're resources here that are committed to supporting you in any way we can. And we want to be able to do that. Again, you know, the services that we provide through the Small Business Development Centers, our consulting is free of charge. And we will work alongside of you with any issues you have related to this or other business issues for as long as you need us. So don't hesitate to go to the website address. Again, that's www.scsbdc.com, and I put it in the chat box. If you want to reach out to me personally, my number is 803-201-8780.
Okay. Frank?
Well, thank you again, and Congressman, for your leadership and holding this this forum. Let me just go back to the number I gave out. If somebody is having a difficult time finding a lender, Diane Sumter, she's told me today to have people call her. She will hook you up with a lender that she has right now ready to help people process loans. Her number, 803-730-6466, Diane Sumter. And let me just say that thank you for all the small businesses out there, the sole proprietors. You are the ones who really make this country go. You are the ones we need to survive, because we know that coming out of the Great Recession, it was small businesses that did the hiring to get us back on track, and we need you to be there. We cannot afford to lose great percentage of our small businesses. So the PPP loans, if you have not applied, go ahead and apply for it. And you know, we're resilient. Small business and entrepreneurs are optimistic. We have to make it work. You have to do what you have to do to try to continue your business and to improvise if necessary. But use the resources that are made available thanks to Congress and Congressman Joe Cunningham. And I wish you all the best of luck. If you want to reach me, you can just go to South Carolina Small Business Chamber of Commerce and reach me that way.
Frank, Michelle, William, thank you for your dedication, your service to the Lowcountry and South Carolina and to small businesses. This is very productive. Again, everyone else on the call, go to our website, cunningham.house.gov. We'll be sending a follow-up email. I hope you're subscribed to our newsletter. You'll get a lot of these resources. And if we didn't get your question answered here today on this call, we'll be trying our best to follow up with you and get you an answer. And I want to remind everyone, we will get through this. We will get to the other side of it. And I do believe that we're going to be stronger as a community because of it. And so we have to stick together, recognize that these small businesses aren't just businesses, they're our neighbors, they're our friends, our family members, they're people we work with, we see out in parks or in churches. And so this is a very tight-knit community, and I'm convinced that because of that, we can weather any storm, especially a pandemic. So I want to thank everyone again who's on the call. I hope everyone stays healthy. Hope everyone has a great weekend. God bless you all, and God bless the Lowcountry. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.